Okay friends, to get started on our camshaft position sensor, the first thing we need to do is locate where the original one is. If you were to come along the backside of your engine, right underneath your distributor cap is where it's going to be located. To get started, what we're going to need to do is remove the passenger side ignition coil wires. Now looking at the cap right here, you're going to be able to tell that it has some numbers printed directly onto it. Those numbers are going to be very important, and what you want to do is mark the wires in the same areas. So this one right here says cylinder 2. I'm going to put a 2 right on this wire, and then continue on with all the rest of the wires. So the next one's 4, then 6, and then of course we have the coil wire. Mark all of them, and then we'll start removing the passenger side wires. I'm just going to go ahead and grab onto it, give it a nice little wiggle and a twist, try to break it free. Now that we have all the passenger side wires off of there, let's continue on by removing the mounting bolts that hold the cap down to the distributor itself. You're going to find one in the front and then one in the rear. You can tell where the indents are. Remove them both. Now that we have both bolts out, let's go ahead and lift up on our cap, and then we'll set it aside. Now that we have that out of the way, let's continue on by removing our distributor cap. You're going to find 2 mounting bolts for that. Go ahead and remove them both, and then we'll pull this up and out. Now the next thing I want to pay attention to is this area along here. If you were to look along the bottom area of it, you can tell that there's going to be a large cutout, and then there's another area that has an area that goes into the actual cam position sensor, into the slot. We need to rotate the crank down at the bottom clockwise until we're at the area where this is nice and clear and we can slide the cam position sensor out. Alright, so now that we have this spun, so this is essentially pretty much lined up right here, and we have a nice gap underneath to be able to remove our cam position sensor. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and relieve this by lifting up on this tab, drawing this off. Inspect your wiring. If you see any funny colors, it's corrosion and it needs to be dealt with. This looks great. Let's set it aside. Looking down at the camshaft position sensor, you're going to find 2 mounting bolts. Go ahead and remove them both. Now we can grab onto that sensor, give it a nice wiggle, and draw it up and out of here. So now at this point, you can tell that I have the distributor lined up with the area where the camshaft position sensor nub is right there. You need to be very close, if not perfectly lined up. I'm just going to grab onto the camshaft position sensor, give it a nice wiggle so I can break it free. There it is, friends. Okay, now it's time to install our brand new camshaft position sensor. When we do this, we want to be very careful not to damage this area with the distributor as we put it down and in. Just going to bring it so it's facing almost straight down. Line up the area here. There we are. Now we're just going to slide it down. Make sure that your gasket's touching completely up against the distributor all the way around. And now we can start in our 2 mounting bolts. We'll start that one in. Now we'll start the other one in. Now that they're both started, we can just go ahead and tighten these up. Right there I can feel that bottomed out. At this point I'm just going to go a teeny bit more and then do the same to the other one. Okay, bottomed out, teeny bit more, perfect. Now we're going to go ahead and plug in our electrical connector. Give it a nice tug, make sure it's completely secured. All right, before we go ahead and put on our rotor here, I'm just going to hold the bolts so they don't fall out. And then we're going to look at the back side. Along where those bolt holes are, you can see that it has a little piton right next to it. If you look at the other one, one's a little bit further away. Now if you go to the rear of the engine and you look at that distributor, you're going to be able to find that the holes look the same on that. So that way there you can't put the rotor on backwards. Just going to carefully bring this down. Give it a little spin. I should feel it want to slide into its little latching position, and then we can tighten up the bolts. We'll start that one in. Now we'll start in the other one. Once they're both started, we'll snug them up. Okay, I can feel that's bottomed out. Just going to go a tiny bit more. Do the same on the other one. Okay, that's bottomed out. A little bit more. Give it a nice wiggle. Make sure it's completely secured. Now let's grab the cap. Slide the cap on here. Give it a nice little spin. You can feel where it wants to latch in. Now we can start in both of our bolts. Okay, so now that we have them both started in, let's go ahead and snug them up. Okay, it's bottomed out, teeny bit more, bottomed out, tiny bit more. Now we can grab our ignition wires. I'm going to start with the far rear one. That one's the coil wire. I marked that with a C. Let's go ahead and push it right on there. Listen for a click, make sure it's completely bottomed out. Next one, cylinder 6. Now we'll go 4, and then of course cylinder 2. Double check everything, make sure it's secure. All right, let's start up the truck. Okay friends, now that you started up your engine, go ahead and take your truck for a road test and make sure you don't have a check engine light.